1 o'clock. Call this meeting to order. Stand for the pledge. No, I did. That might should be good. All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty. Well, it's very nice to be back. Looks like we have a great turnout. Okay, pledge done. Roll call. Bill Shute, present. Bill Stewart. Here. Hayden Hamilton.
Here.
James Kozak.
Here.
Welcome, James.
Thank you.
And I don't think we're going to need any alternates. Okay, so 4 seating of alternates, we can pass on that. All right, item 5, additions, deletions, amendments to the agenda.
None here.
Okay, any from the committee?
Never none.
Nope, sir. Okay. Am I going too fast?
Not at all.
All right, I like this. All right, public comments. Any members of the public?
We do not have any members of the public.
I think we skipped 6.
There's 6. Approval.
Oh, sorry. Approval of the agenda.
That was too fast.
That was too fast.
That was-
You snuck that in there before. You moved
Yeah,
that the
that's
last
new.
time I was here. Okay,
I move we approve the agenda as published.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Now you can.
now I can move on. Item 6 approved. Public comment. No public. So no comment. All right. So item 8, the May 21st minutes. Everybody should have the minutes in front of them. You can take a moment to review, and if I can get a motion to approve as written.
I move we approve it as
I'll
written.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item 9, comments and request, sub A, I guess, general manager's comments.
Yeah, a couple things for you today, and welcome. Prefer James or Jim?
Either one is fine.
Either one is fine. Mr. Kozak, welcome to
There we go.
the. Yeah, glad to have
So I
you.
won't use either one.
Thank you, Jake.
Yeah. No, glad to have you here and a full committee again. And yeah, appreciate you joining. It's really valuable, the input that all our committees provide to our board and to staff. It just makes us better. It really does. So appreciate your participation. Couple things to update this committee on. We've been going through, and I know that several of you participated and have heard now over the last couple months, but obviously went through a pretty robust budget season that we're going to wrap up hopefully here end of June. We conducted 3 workshops. The first one focused on our capital improvement program. We did a pretty comprehensive upgrade of that, looked out kind of a 10-year window on our capital improvement plan. And then we had 2 workshops with the board and committees on just the budget for fiscal year 24-25. And, a little bit of a unique, it's a unique year in particular because of, we anticipate that detachment from the San Diego County Water Authority is going to occur sometime late this year. And I'll update you kind of on where we're at with those things too. But obviously unique for our budget because our whole, the wholesale water cost changes. But there is a host of things that have to get done as part of both our LAFCO, the LAFCO approval and as well the settlement agreement that we struck with the County Water Authority that really kind of gave us the clarity on when detachment would occur. And so we kind of factored all those things into the budget, and we are going to see some savings, partial year savings on our wholesale water. I think our budget shows somewhere in the neighborhood of $2.5 million in water savings. In this first year, the kind of the issue and kind of the messaging that we've been working on is, you know, we've got some costs that kind of offset that partial year savings, right? We're really not seeing the full benefit of it yet. And so through a lot of deliberation and we went back into our budget and made some cuts and did some different things. What we're looking at is, and this is going before the board for one more deliberation, so that'll be next week, is about a 4.5% kind of across the board increase just to keep pace with those costs for this fiscal year. What's also unique about that is we're looking at an 18-month time frame. So normally we would, you know, set rates for a 12-month time frame, but partially because, again, we're going to continue to see the benefit of the savings, the wholesale water savings. Basically, what we're anticipating now is we will not require a rate increase in July. July of 2025. We'll be able to hold rates flat, which is, you're going to hear a lot about rates in the next few months from all of our neighboring agencies in San Diego County, and it's going to be the numbers are eye-popping. So for us to be able to do that is kind of a testament to those savings. And again, staff's worked really hard to kind of hold the line on everything else. Obviously, you know, looking for savings anywhere we can, which we always do. So that's kind of what the budget looks like. We've, you know, and it funds our CIP. So the projects that we need to do next year, we did defer some projects into year 2 and 3 just to, you know, kind of
Meet a board request.
but really that funds the district. And so, you know, to have even just under a partial year savings, to have just a very modest rate increase. I understand it's still a rate increase, you know, but I think it's kind of a testament to what the board was after for all those years, as far as, you know, delivering some savings to our ratepayers. And I think we're finally going to get to realize that kind of in a big way in 2025 and then beyond. So that's the good news on actually getting there. We have a couple things that we need to complete. One of them was an operations plan with County Water Authority, and really that just defines, you know, kind of going forward, you know, the communications and things like that. Because, you know, just because we're detached doesn't mean we're not part of the county. We're still along the same pipelines and those kind of things. So, but we have those pretty well in order. I'm anticipating we're going to be completely done with those here in the next couple of months. We still have to work out the water supply agreements with Metropolitan. So there's a little change there, and that involves Eastern as well. Those ones are probably going to take a little bit longer, but it won't hold up detachment. We're going to have a kind of an interim agreement where, you know, basically Met's just bringing water through those same meters, and Rainbow out now owns them. But the long-term agreements because there's some complications in there as far as how, you know, it impacts how they deliver water to San Diego County Water Authority. You know, you got to take these out and add these, and just nothing is really fast with Metropolitan. They're just a really large agency, and but they are committed. I mean, we're meeting every other week, so bi-weekly. We have their you know, it's conference call between all the agencies. So we're diligently working on that, but they understand it's probably going to take a little bit longer because there's other issues to work out, not just Rainbow issues. It's between them and the Water Authority and things like that. So, but anyways, not going to hold us up. The real critical path on everything is really our construction project. We've got a series of pump stations that are being built, and happy to report those are on schedule. So the original schedule from the contractor, and we had to do some, Chad and his team actually pretty creative with some of the making sure we don't get caught up with long lead items. We actually flew a few valves in rather than bringing them over on a boat, and some things like that that really cut the timeline down, but really kept us on schedule. And that's early October is the contractor schedule. So really that puts us somewhere, you know, by the time you commission, I mean, our budget assumed January 1st. We're hoping we beat that. by a couple of months is probably our best case scenario, like a November 1, but somewhere in that November 1 to January 1 time period, where we'll have those pump stations done and commissioned. Assuming we don't run into anything, again, it's a construction project. So, you know, you never really know, but progress is really good. One of the things we were concerned about was one of the sites had some rock that we were going to have to get into, kind of, yeah, cutting into a hillside, and they've actually been able to get through it with a bucket. So that's been really promising. That site's moving along really well. That was one of the hurdles too. But anyways, and we still have some things to go. We have to actually get power to the sites and do some things like that. So there's, you know, we haven't seen the last hurdles yet, but as of right now, we're on schedule and everything's kind of tracking that way. And these guys are every day. That is kind of the focus. So, so that's all going pretty well. Yeah, work's underway on all 3 sites. And yeah, one of them's a little further along, the Rancho Amigos. They just set the building and the pump cans. EFI was out last week doing all that. So so that's really promising. And yeah, the other 2 sites are moving along pretty well too. So yeah. Couple other things on water sales. Last month, the month of May, actually deliveries. We don't have the numbers on the sales quite yet. We're still getting those in. But we took in about 1,400 acre feet of deliveries. That was up 1,000 acre feet from the previous month. So really had a nice increase in demand. Again, some of that 1,400 probably went into storage. We, you know, putting a little bit into storage over in Morrow, and
Half of it probably went to my property.
half of it. Your sprinklers are on, huh? But yeah, we've definitely seen an uptick in demand. So I think with you know, the way the weather's been in June, which it looks like it's even going to heat up a little bit more here towards the end. You know, looking at ending somewhere in that 10 to 11,000 acre foot of sales, I think we're headed in that direction. So, but we'll report those final numbers, of course. But a nice uptick in May at least. Man's budget. We're going to talk about crop swap. I think Amanda's already got that, so I won't spoil the news on that. And I think that's kind of all I got. Big updates.
Great. Any question for the general manager?
I do. Since I've tried to learn as much as I can from the website and other things, but in looking at things from kind of a larger perspective, our committee, you know, deals with customer service, and the word customers brought to my attention is, you know, who are our customers and what's the breakout between residential, commercial. I don't have any idea of what that number of accounts is and what kind of demand or usage residential versus commercial brings to the district, and is one sector growing faster than the other. So I don't know if there's an opportunity for staff to bring back something to this committee next month with some of that information, so we could kind of better analyze it and see how we're communicating with with that customer base.
Sure. And I can give you some rough numbers now.
Okay.
But yeah, we can bring you some more detail. And interesting you brought that up, because we're actually kind of in the middle of a strategic communications plan. And that is one of the things that, I mean, Carlene's got some graphs and numbers and breakdowns that, you know, are just that. It was a big part of we actually had a workshop at the start of that. So you could jump in right here in the middle of the development of that communications plan. But that's really one of the things we looked at was, you know, who are our customers? How do they receive their information? How can we best, you know, and then now how can we best communicate those things to our customers? We have about 9,000 water accounts. So, and that's almost like exact. It's like 8,900 and high 90s, or so, you know, or high 80s. It's almost 9,000 accounts. About 2,000 agricultural accounts. That's both ag and ag domestic. So, you know, residents with ag or just a pure commercial ag property, couple thousand accounts. And I believe ag still, this has been declining over the years. And I think, people taking down their trees and especially I think a lot on smaller parcels. I have 100 trees or something like that, those things coming down. So the ag demand has come down quite a bit, but still makes up about over 50%, 55%.
There was a time when ag was 25% of the accounts, but 75% of the revenue. But that ratio is no longer accurate.
Yeah. So still 20-ish percent, but yeah, the demand has definitely come down to that. And that's where we see, we were selling even just 5-7 years ago, 17, 18, 19,000 acre feet. And you heard the numbers today. It's a wet year. We've had 2 consecutive wet years. So sometimes even those things kind of compound themselves, but we've seen a, 50-60% drop in demand just in the past decade. And then even more than that, if you go further back, we were up at 33,000, I think was our peak at one point. And most of that is agricultural because we've had a rise actually in, you've got conservation in there too, right? Conservation and those kind of things. And that's, everybody has seen that, whether you have ag or not, pretty significant dips in demand, but ours is more heavily impacted by agriculture.
Dumb question on my part. Are the full board reports packets published on the web?
Yes.
Okay. The reason I asked the question is because at each board of directors meeting if you want to call it the appendices, is the month-to-month use and breakout by individual customer type and everything, charts and spreadsheets and everything. So if you want to be a masochist and really dig into the numbers, grab like last month's board packet and look in the back. Everything from where our forecast water purchase prices are, planned versus actual versus historic, are all in those packets each month.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's even breakdowns month by month. So you can really kind of see what the impacts have been, both wet weather and obviously, the loss of trees.
Mhm.
Yeah. So those are good questions though. And yeah, as we go through these things, you'll hear a lot more about all of that. Yeah.
And with your budget information, it's a tremendous opportunity to get involved in sharing good news with all our customers. There obviously had to be a personal commitment to have so many people come out to vote in favor of detachment. So I think we have to really show the benefits of their involvement in voting yes. And sometimes, people can be, I find the more simple you can make it to communicate with people, the better. And everyone attributes a rate increase as a negative, but everything's increased with inflation the last couple of years. And so I think one way to help change that perspective is comparison.
Yeah.
By other water districts our size, and what some of the challenges are, so they can see that it could have been a heck of a lot worse.
Yeah.
The fact that these rate increases are smaller or steady, you're still handling the long-term needs. I mean, it's
One of the things the board has suggested and we try to do is that may or may not occur, but this is what your bill would have been had you stayed in water authority. And this is what it is that
that's a great
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. And that's kind of the story now of our newsletter that we just put out. I mean, that is kind of the big thing is the water authority is considering a rate increase somewhere in the high double digits, 18%, 19%. That's going to go into effect on January 1st. That would have impacted us tremendously. I think we were looking at double digit increases just for us based, just to pass that through. And so to be looking at, 4.5, 3.5%, that's it. You're right. I think we got to be sympathetic. Obviously a rate increase is a rate increase. It makes your bill go up and, we're doing everything we can to minimize that. But yeah, we're going to avoid some real pain that you're gonna, again, I think the story almost tells itself because you're gonna hear a lot about it.
And we need to strategize on how we can, you know, sell that to the roof, sing it off the rooftops, because I mean, that is a fantastic story. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yep.
Nobody can say what we're talking about that they've done to mitigate this. So we've got a unique opportunity to, really tout our own horn. And a lot of times I find most agencies don't know how to do that very effectively because they're in the process of just doing it. And we don't communicate to our customers enough on a great job, well done. So maybe this committee can provide some assistance to the board and ideas and with staff to really sing it from the rooftops.
Absolutely.
Good points, James. I think it was a couple meetings ago, I guess, when we were talking about this exact topic, right? With regards to how to keep the public updated on all the progress that's happening through detachment, all the steps that needed to be taken, how it was going to roll out, because they're like, we voted for it. Now what happens, right? Does it
Yeah.
go into the-
Why don't I see
you know,
anything on my
whatever.
bill?
Yeah.
So there was a lot of great information that was shared a few months back with regards to all the different touch points that we could do. The question is it enough? Are there better ones? Is the message getting through? Some people read the newsletter, some people don't. If you pay your bill electronically, you may never look at the bill or the newsletter, right? Do you get the local paper? Do you see the stuff that's being put in there? Do you see the mailers? Those kinds of things, right? It's all important. Good points.
Yep.
Do we get, do we have very many people paying online where we have their email addresses or anything like that? Because doing an email blast with the newsletter and other things could be very helpful of breaking news.
Not as extensive as we would like.
So this is a topic that's come up a lot. So it was a few months back where I think we looked at all of the efforts that we've made with regards to addresses to the people that live in the district that aren't necessarily paying a bill, but they're paying for water, right? If they live in a condo complex. How many email addresses we have, do we have, the latest phone numbers? And we did a kind of a review of some of that stuff a few months back, but why don't we put that on the agenda to kind of go back through that again? Because the call center is always actively trying to get updated information. And I think I even shared a story. There's a big main break near my neighborhood that took water on and off over a course of a week as the repairs were made. And my neighbors were coming to me asking me what's going on. And I was like, aren't you getting the reverse 911 call to tell you when the water is going to be turned off and how long it's going to be off? And they were like, well, the number we probably have at the water district was a landline that we disconnected 10 years ago. And I said, well, that's an important thing to update, right? So anyway, so these are all, so a lot of people, they may pay their bill automatically or they pay their bill and never really see or communicate much, right? So how do you reach that person, right? So I think it's always a challenge. We've talked about social media, but that takes a lot of investment, if you're trying to keep, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter or X, whatever, all those stuff updated. And if you're going to communicate on it, you have to always communicate on it, right? So these are all really good topics for us to talk about in committee and for the staff and management to consider, but we also have to think about their resources, their time as well. So, but I think these are very good points. Other questions for the general manager? You didn't have none? Okay, good.
Are we down to committee member comments?
Almost.
Okay.
I was moving too fast before. Now clearly Bill thinks I'm moving too slow. All right, I'm gonna move on to 9B and I'm going to prioritize Bill.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I had three things that have come up in the last month or two that are really interesting. One is that there was a recent article in the Union Tribune about the horrendous lack of new volunteers now across the state and certainly in San Diego County to serve on commissions, committees, and other adjuncts to public agencies, mainly, and nonprofits as well. But that article was really sounding an alarm. You know, why is it that we can get so few people? Well, liability is one thing, but also because a lot of the agencies give lip service to their committees. I mean, yeah, okay, we've got a committee and they meet and most of them are directors and they just sort of, you know, gloss over everything. This one has been unique in the, at least during the last 10 years, in the activism of the committees. And one of the reasons, I thank you again, Jim, for volunteering and filling our void here. Because our committees have done three different things that are great. One is people have remained on them for a good long time. And so they've become educated in that area to the point where they actually have a great deal of useful information to provide. But the second thing is that this organization treats the committees very well. I mean, we get great information for starters. We are engaged with all of the key people on the staff who are supplying the work within that realm, and the general manager. And we get great information in advance so that we know what's coming up on these agendas. And the board actually is looking for the recommendations of the committee. Now, you know, that doesn't happen in a lot of places, and it certainly doesn't happen with a lot of agencies. And so, again, you know, whenever I see a new volunteer come into the, well, I just want you to know you're going to be listened to, and you're going to have an opportunity to have input, and that the committee as a whole is going to get the respect of the board to listen to its recommendations. And almost everything that goes to the board, in fact, there are very few exceptions, gets funneled back through our three committees and before the board takes up those items to make decisions. That's extremely important, I think, in the organization. That was the first point. The second point is that I noticed, you know, the Water Authority puts out a newsletter, you know, periodically, or at least a bulletin. I don't know if everybody gets it. I get it because they've confused me with one of our former directors. And so I'm still getting this report from Mr. Denham.
Yes.
Okay.
That's his
Isn't that
personal
monthly
little
reports?
piece.
Once they have an email address, you don't do it.
Never
because-
leave.
Yeah, I'm going to get that
And
forever.
I'll give you an example if I can jump in, Bill. For the first 6 months that I was on the board, we had our own personal email addresses for communication, and we finally convinced everybody that it was in our best interest to move everything under the umbrella of the Rainbow IT from a management and
Yeah.
information perspective. I still get Denham's report on that email address that I had for 6 months. That was 8 years ago, 7 years ago.
At any rate, in 2 months ago, his report, you know, dealt with the upcoming gigantic increase that's coming. And pretty much by the end of the report is throwing us under the bus.
So it's all our fault.
It's all the fault of those folks out there in Fallbrook.
Farmers.
Yeah, that left us, and you know, now we got to make up the difference, and we're going to have to send along all this cost. Well,
But
you
that
know,
didn't-
you shake your head. What are we? Were we 1% or was it 2%? Oh,
I think
okay.
it's 4.
So it was, but that seems to have modified. The last report I saw, it was much less, still on the same subject and going over all the problems that the Water Authority is facing right now.
Well, I was amused, if I can
But-
jump in, on
but-
the last report. If you understand and read between the lines, what he's saying is we found somebody, or we found people that are interested in buying our take
Our
or
water.
pay.
Yeah. We may have found.
May have,
Yeah.
that there's a lot of interest in the Water Authority signed an agreement with the Imperial Water District.
Hmm.
Purchasing water that IID pays $36 an acre foot for.
Mhm.
And we pay, the water authority pays 600 for that same water.
Mhm.
But it has a take or pay limit. If you drop below 300,000 acre feet, is it?
Yeah, that's
a year?
all their contracts, about
The
320, yeah.
contract. It doesn't matter. You still pay for 300,000. And for years, the water authority has basically said, oh, there's no problem. We'll never drop. Well, they dropped below it about
This
2
year.
months ago.
Yeah, this,
And so now they're scrambling to try to figure out what to do with this water that they're not using, that they're paying for.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Another point, just a momentarily on that subject. There's another story circulating right now and hit the local TV stations about the what's going on with the Salton Sea. I don't know if any of you saw it, but basically the owners of property in the vicinity of the Salton Sea and the farmers of that whole region are saying, well, the Salton Sea is shrinking. Of course, it's been shrinking for 50 years, but in fact, longer than that. But the upshot of the story is it is shrinking due to the water that's getting sold to San Diego. And so they want all
want it
that,
back.
they want it back to put in the Salton Sea.
Yeah.
So now that,
Lithium mining out there now.
right.
well, and the more ground there is and the less water there is, the better it is for the lithium mining. But forget that. But that was the second thing. The third thing. The fourth thing was that I think that this article that's the newsletter that's attached here that we got our look at. I don't see this newsletter except when I come to meetings
Oh, okay.
because
you
I
get your bill online.
pay my bill online and even though the district has my email address, we don't have a mechanism to send it to all the email addresses of those paying online at the moment, so far as I know, because it's not coming to me.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, I was surprised. In the past, we've basically gotten that chart in the bill once a year.
yeah, the this report,
But that has to be
Oh.
sent out.
yeah, this I get, of course. I'm talking about the newsletter.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
sorry. I'm talking about the newsletter. So I think that that's really important because, I mean, just one stat in this thing is just mind blowing. 4.5% for 18 months versus 39% over the next 3 years. I mean, those are giant numbers. Somehow or other, those giant numbers need to be those which we use frequently to address the questions that come up even about the 4.5% increase. I mean, it's just massive. And so I thought all three of those things were interesting. I don't think that I think that we've reached a tipping point now with our district. And I just wanted to say too, for this committee that being a member of the Budget and Finance Committee and having had the opportunity to sit through the two joint meetings with the board and Finance Committee meetings over the recent months, as it is clear to me that we have one of the finest financial people around. I mean, he is truly remarkable. So is this guy sitting to my right, but we have this team here that has been able to do some really remarkable things. It actually even starts out there in the field and with the guy that's keeping this thing together while we keep our rate increase low and the hundreds of things that he does. So we're truly blessed with that we are getting to a board meeting next week with the final approval of the budget, I guess, and the implementation of this. It's just a remarkable tipping point for our district. Thank you.
Great. All right, and Hayden, you had nothing?
No,
All right, well, my only comments were first off, I missed you guys last month. I did. when I scheduled that, I think our meetings were on the first Thursday.
Yeah.
And I wasn't gonna miss a meeting, but things changed, but I was totally cool with that, Mr. General Manager. James, I would just like to again formally welcome you. Could you take a moment and, other than what was written up in the minutes, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure, sure. I've been in the real estate investment and development business for most of my life. And I moved here moved to San Diego in 1992 from Hawaii of all places. And have really learned development quite a bit in Hawaii, doing high-rise luxury condominiums with ocean views, and
Right.
it was an exciting process, but it was kind of learned the process of working through the bureaucracy at the city of Honolulu and
Mhm.
the water districts, and seeing how critical that is to a successful project, and trying to balance the needs of each. And when I moved to San Diego, I finished the Harbor Club project, which was a twin tower condominium project across from the convention center downtown on Harbor Street. And then primarily I've been through till currently, I have my own company called Strategic Land Partners, which develops basically raw land. And most of my projects are all in Riverside County. I don't have anything in San Diego County, so there wouldn't be any conflicts, from that standpoint. But basically, we with partners, we buy raw land and see if there's a higher and better use for it in terms of the zoning,
Mhm.
the density, and solving problems with the property, because whatever's left had problems. It's the low hanging fruit that gets developed. So, and with CEQA being such a critical part of the process of any large project, we don't really do infill projects of 10 or 20 units. It just doesn't pencil out for us. So we like larger acreage
Mhm.
where we can put several hundred units or do an industrial project of 50 acres or something like that. So that's what I've been doing the last 25 years or so.
Great.
And have worked with EMWD, Mission Springs Water District in the Coachella Valley. That's on the west side of the valley. A little experience with CBWD out there,
Mhm.
which has a reputation for being one of the most difficult water districts to deal with. So every district is different, and it's my wife and I moved from Encinitas to Fallbrook several years ago, and we have a 2.5 acre property, and we've got fruit trees, and
Nice.
it's a little bit of paradise, and I figured, it is so important to keep agriculture, I think, in Fallbrook, because that's part of the uniqueness that really no other community can really offer in the abundance that we have here.
Mhm.
So I'd like to see our agricultural customers grow to protect some of the uniqueness that we have here from our history. At the same time, I've worked with processing a 2,000 unit project through Mission Springs Water District, to get the entitlements, to prove that we've got enough water supply to handle 2,000 units with a water district, and building wells and interties and things like that. So I found it really fantastic, to interface in that direction. So being in the neighborhood, I thought, when I saw the word go out for committee members, I thought this would be a great opportunity to maybe give back to the community
Sure.
a little bit. I really believe in that. And so here I am, and hope to participate in a positive way and being solution oriented, because it's a difficult problem situation that every water district faces. You need to grow revenues,
Mhm.
but at the same time, I recommend everybody conserve.
Right.
And so if we don't have enough customers with the capital needs and wear out in equipment obsolescence, it's a real challenge to balance that properly. And it's almost like an art form. So
Sure.
it's wonderful to help participate in that.
Great. Well, that's wonderful. Well, welcome. And I think that balancing of lower usage and how to balance that budget and deliver, everything that the ratepayers expect from this district is a hard job. And obviously we're looking at the people who do that every day. So that's great. And how did you hear, where did you see the call to join the committee?
I think it came in a newsletter that I got with my bill.
Nice.
And so I get my bill, but I pay it online through my bank
Okay.
from that standpoint. But I enjoy reading the newsletter. It's very informative and
Mhm.
so many
It
water
looked nice
districts.
too, doesn't it?
Yes,
That is a nice looking newsletter.
so many water districts, the customers come to them, and so it's not like they have to market themselves. So many districts I found had zero staff invested in community outreach and really
Sure.
communicating with the customer. It's almost like, the government,
Yep.
So,
Well, it is kind of is.
yeah.
Kind of.
And we've come a long way, Jim.
Oh, boy. Uh-oh,
Yeah.
we're gonna tell stories.
Let's put it this way, the reputation of the Rainbow Municipal Water District has not been stellar in the past. 25 years ago, when I moved here, we told our corporate lawyer at the time, my wife and I both have corporations, that we were moving to Rainbow. And her comment was, "Oh, I make a good living suing."
Nice. Well, we're glad those times are over.
Right.
They're over.
Well, super. Well, if you do get tired in your retirement, I saw an article in the paper where they're going 20 stories up in Hillcrest and University City.
Yes.
So that neighborhood's gonna forever
Yeah.
change.
I will say though, I'm not retired. I have 9 projects that I'm working on
Okay.
in Riverside County.
There you go. Well, there you go.
I'm a busy guy
All right. that's
and I
great.
enjoy playing golf too.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Okay, my only other comment was just a shout out to Thomas. Popped by my neighborhood today. There was a dig alert, and he was fast, he was professional, and was very communicative. So I appreciate that very much. My neighbor who lives down at the end of my property was getting ready to do some work, and he was out there quick. And now that developer knows what he needs to do. So I thought that was great. That was my only other comment. All right, so let's move on then to item 10, crop swap.
So just to bring James, I don't know how much you know about the crop swap program, but we've been working on this for a little while, but really it just kicked off. The actual initiation of the program kicked off, and this is actually a crop swap was a program that was developed up at Rancho Water, up Temecula, Marietta area, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. And it was really focused on, swapping crops, high use avocados, citrus, switching to like wine grapes or things like that, which some of that's a little bit unique to Temecula. They've got a pretty good little tourism area and that kind of thing. So they got a pretty good response to the program. They pitched a regional program where they, kind of expanding it to a larger area and received a $5 million grant from the state. This is probably 6 months ago, 7 months ago, something like that. And so we're one of the participating agencies: Rainbow, Fallbrook, Oceanside, Valley Center, everybody's got kind of an ag presence. But the program opened up late April, right? April 29th. Yeah, April 29th. So really we're about 1 month in, and I think these stats are kind of the 1 month stats. Rainbow is killing it. We're doing really well. And a lot of credit to Amanda and Carlene. We started months ago, really pitching it. You probably saw it in the newsletter. We sent out a mailer, just a small postcard. Didn't cost us a lot, but to every eligible account, which I think I said we have a couple thousand eligible accounts. But it's really starting to take hold. And this is the first month. We did some other kind of behind the scenes advertising too, some of the key you know, the packing houses and places that, you know, they've got a lot of reach into that agricultural community. Obviously had some sit downs and talks with them about the program too, which is still pretty effective around here. It's a small, you know, 2,000, you think 2,000 is a lot, but word spreads fast, especially, you know, doing things like that. So this is these are the first month stats, but really this program was really aimed at just, you know, I think in our perspective, just what you were talking about. Really the long-term sustainability, kind of investing in that long-term, and it benefits obviously our agriculture community, the, you know, kind of the culture of the community. But also, to be quite honest, it kind of base loads our demand, our water demand, and so it benefits the district as well. And so those were kind of the reasons we were eager to join in, and so far so good. And with that, I'll give it to them, Amanda, to
Yeah, so
take us
like
through.
Chick said, we had our first initial meeting May 31st of last year, and it was just an overview of the entire program and were we interested? And that's where we initially started our campaign to inform our ratepayers. So we sent out a newsletter in June within a link to an interest list that had a lot of traction from June until April. So we slowly built up the interest of our ratepayers with newsletter articles, just trickling out information as we received it. And Josh can attest to the amount of calls we received from our ag customers who genuinely wanted this program to start yesterday.
Sure.
So there was a need. And once we rolled it out, our ratepayers were on the Crop Swap website, you know, 8 a.m. eager to submit. So we led the pack with 35 submissions to date.
Wow.
We had a majority of them come from our interest list that we built online. And then the rest were through direct mail and our newsletter. So we were a great example of how to launch this campaign, so much so that Rancho Water reached out to us and asked, what were you doing? What can we also share with our regional partners that could help them increase the amount of submissions that they have for their ratepayers? So I just said, we started early. We had a whole campaign rollout, and thanks to a lot of support from our management team with direct mail and newsletters, we were able to give the most amount of information versus some agencies didn't jump on as quickly as us. I've had several other team members ask and other agencies, you know, what should we do? So I've sent samples of our work to them. Currently, right now, we have 12 projects that are approved. 11 are in that pre-inspection phase, where Rancho Water has to go out to the site and review to see if they are a good candidate. And if, you know, everything from mulching to smart irrigation, best management practices will be reviewed and then approved. Right now, we have 11 more submissions that are going through that process.
Yeah, the 12 projects that are approved, those have actually already passed all that. So
Nice.
got their application in, actually sent the inspector out. The inspector went, yep, this is a go. And so those are when you see the funding amounts, that's what the funding amounts are based on, just the 12. So there's a lot more in the pipeline.
And we met our maximum of 200K threshold amount, and now we're dipping into the communal pool.
Nice.
I believe.
Yes. Well, the structure there, this was actually something I brought up. I probably shouldn't have. I probably should just left all the money in there. We're going to take it all. But you know, everybody contributed, you know, to get the program up and running. So we all gave 25,000 to kind of, you know, get the website up and running. They have not a part-time staff, but a contract staff member that's actually just overseeing all these applications and everything. They're busy. I'm surprised it's just one. But just to make sure, because everybody contributed, make sure everybody got, you know, because we figured
chance at it.
some people would be faster than others. They kind of reserved like 200,000 per agency to, you know, nobody can take that from you. That's for your customers. But then once you get past the 200,000, it's first come, first serve. So
Sure.
the millions that are beyond that are first come, first serve. So that's where that comes from. But we're already beyond the reserve amount. We're into the community pool.
The general
Yeah.
pool.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
And our plan is to continue promoting the campaign. In July, we're going to tie it into Smart Irrigation Month. And in August, the first week in August is National Farmers Week. So we plan to keep people informed, highlight that link, send all the calls to Rancho Water.
Well, that's great.
And they're wanting to know what we're doing, so I'm feeding them information about our marketing campaign.
I think one of the best things too, I mean, it really does show, I think so far, oh, and you got more numbers. The agricultural community is willing to invest. And that was really our concern going in was, are people going to want to reinvest in their farms and that, and so far so good. I think it's a really good sign for us.
Well,
And the programs have also expanded from being strictly a crop swap program to efficiencies across your farming activities.
And even swapping, you see the large amount there is avocado rootstock. So taking out old trees, putting in new, more drought tolerant, salt tolerant rootstock.
yeah, and then the Phytophthora, they're resistant to Phytophthora as well. Yeah. Well, that's great. Keep going.
This is a breakdown of our applications to date and the areas where they're pulling from. So we do have avocado rootstock, crop conversion, avocado rejuvenation are our top 3 areas, and then trickled in there, mulching, nutrient management. Some of our landowners are actually going back and reapplying. So they'll apply for one project and get approved and then come back with another project. And these are use landowners. So they're taking advantage of the
That's great.
opportunity presented.
Anything else on crop swap? The only thing I would say is, or add to this conversation is, I think I was at Grape Day up in Temecula a month or 2 back. And somebody was there from Rancho, I think, pretty sure, and they were talking about this program then. And I might even seen an update in the Small Wine Grape Growers Association meeting in Temecula as well. But one of the data points that I thought was most interesting, just in overall conversation, not necessarily specific to this, but why I think this program is so important, is that I didn't realize, and I'm going to kind of butcher the stats a little bit here, but San Diego County has like the highest percentage of organic farms, I think, in the entire country. And there are more individual micro farms or farms, ag, in San Diego County than there is anywhere in the state of California. So this, and then the fastest wine grape growing region in the state, or in the country, is Temecula.
Yeah.
So when you think about how important ag is to San Diego County and up in the Riverside as well, this area is off the charts with density and in numbers, right? So this type of program is really going to appeal to these small, whatever you want to call those type of smaller ag individuals. So it's great, and everything that they're pushing towards with mulching and the biome and improving everything that's going on in the earth, that helps everything else with climate and pest management and everything else. So I think this is absolutely great. But so anyway, some of that density stuff I didn't know until recently. I didn't realize San Diego was kind of leading the way in so many ways.
One of the promoters of that is the PBS program, A Growing Passion. It's on once a week. It's usually, I think, on Thursday nights. And when they do their kind of local programming, there's about an hour program that's devoted to going through. A lot of them are organic. They're farms, they're flower growers, they're people in nurseries, and they have an infinite number of these programs that they've produced. The woman that runs the program is great, and I think is creating has created over the last 10 years a lot of interest in this, and has helped to rejuvenate ag in San Diego as a result. So that's
One question I have is, did you say this grant came from the state? Okay. Yeah, I'm just wondering if we ought to somehow contact our county supervisor, who I know is very supportive of the attachment, to see if the county would agree to do some matching funds for it.
Go the other direction. Go to our federal legislature.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah, they
statewide
have set
program.
aside for funding programs.
Yeah, there's a statewide program. I'm not sure what it's called, but it's, you never know when the funds are going to be available, and it's definitely a first come, first serve. And by the time you realize that they've allocated any funds, the funds are already gone. So this program is definitely much better. And I can see why the response is so good.
Yeah, and we've already started talking about, you know, seeing the initial response to this, kind of where's our next source of funding? I think that's, everybody kind of wanted to see what was the demand for it. It seems like it's there. And I
Right.
think we'll be looking at those,
Right.
whether it's federal or
County.
local. Yeah.
Anything else on crop swap? Okay. Community events?
So this past weekend, we had the Rainbow Run that we sponsored the water booth. We had there were over 200 runners registered, but then they got a flurry of registrants online. It turned out to be a little bit smaller, but they raised a tremendous amount of money for their school and got the word out through community members. Their goal was to have a lot of support from local agencies, and us being one of them. We had our banner featured on their event, and then a water booth with our branded water bottles there. One last thing we have is the North County Water Agency's calendar contest. We have the entries up here on the table,
Mhm.
and we ask for you to go ahead and vote for your top three. We
Okay.
are going to submit them to the organizers of the contest, and then they'll be placed in the calendar for 2025. We do have the chance to recognize these students, these fourth grade students, at perhaps our July committee meeting with an award and a presentation. So we'd like to leave that up to you if you all are interested in a nice photo opportunity, future PR story.
Okay. Do we want to talk about that? What do you guys think? Open the floor up for comments about
I think
July.
it's a good idea.
No, I like it.
Get Joe Namath or somebody from Village News to
Yeah.
cover it.
Sure they would.
Can we have the kids here as well? That's right?
We have all of their.
Would you do it at a board meeting, or would you do it at a committee meeting or a joint meeting?
We'd like to have them here because we can give more time
Yeah,
for the event.
At the committee level.
I think so. I think committee meeting would be good.
Okay.
Sounds great.
All right, well then let's do it. I don't think we have to vote on that, do we? No, just do it. Okay. Anything else? All right, newsletter content
Well,
planning?
I had
Oh.
just a quick question. In terms of events, do we have like a 12-month calendar, or do you have an idea of?
For
What
the three
events,
events that happened in the county.
I'm just curious.
Our main events that we do have are the Avocado Festival. We're starting to incorporate, actually planning this morning with our ambassadors meeting, the Fallbrook Holiday Parade. We plan on participating in that event. And then the poster contest is something that we do from January through April. So those are our three main events that we have budgeted for the year.
And
We used to
we've
do a
done
show.
and passed the car show.
You just had the run, right?
We did, yeah.
That
a
was new.
Brand new event. It was their inaugural event, and we were approached to donate for that event.
And we do the high school field trip in April.
Yes, and the Bonsall High School field trip.
So there's quite a bit going on. Are those going to be continuous every year, or is it?
We have those budgeted for every year, and then we added in the Rainbow Run.
Yeah, the field trips were something that got built, the program got built up post-COVID and then started getting executed on last year, right? It was last year when they started, and that's bringing in STEM students to come through and tour the facility, meet the employees, get interested in potential employment with the district, and to have them better understand, what it takes to provide good, clean, reliable drinking water. And that's been a great program, and it's really good.
That's wonderful.
Great. Okay, newsletter content planning.
And you have in your packets there a copy of our June newsletter.
Mhm.
We have a pretty extensive article here about our rate increase and detachment to keep everybody informed of the latest information. A nice infographic to accompany how much of our water is imported, 100%. We have also in your packet, you have a copy of the 2023 Water Quality Report, our CCR, and copies are available here. And for the first time ever, we have Spanish copies also. So those are on the website, and then printed copies are in the lobby. A message in the June invoice also went out next to your amount. You have just below that is a link to read the report online. We have full coverage of the CPR this year.
Amanda, did you do this?
I did. Yeah.
Thank you. And the reason for that is this is what typically has gone out in the past. And if you're not a scientist trying to read it and figure out what it means is next to impossible for most of the ratepayers. So all this explanation in the front is very, very valuable to helping them understand what's on that chart.
Yeah, our operations team does a wonderful job of supplying all the data and information. And I just took it and made it pretty.
Communications half the battle.
Okay,
And then planning for the summer, for July, we're going to touch on Smart Irrigation Month and feature the crop swap program. Flume is going to have a promotion and we'll feature that in there. And then tips for adjusting your water for heat. We had a message earlier in the year about adjusting for winter, so we want to make sure that we touch on the summer schedule. Converting sustainable landscapes with rebates. So we're trying to push as many rebates as possible for Metropolitan. We have some on our website, but we're going to be adding on video links for turf and place in mulch the proper way, donut shape around instead of just throwing it on top there for maximum water consumption. There's the summer guide for watering and then plugging that customer service survey.
One suggestion might be to try to incorporate some more information about the importance of planting native species, because we have several invasive species that have come into the area. And native plant does not, once it stabilizes, which might mean some hand watering, it's fine without water, with whatever it gets. So there was just an article about somebody in the Village News, guy that's done this all his life. They're featuring him, but I'm seeing this everywhere. I saw it in the Journal. I saw it several other places, and we tried to do that on our property, and it really makes a difference. We got some nice white sage and black sage, and they started out in those small little containers, but after 6 months and a little bit of watering, they're on their own now. And they're 2 feet, 3 feet high, and it's just wonderful to see that.
We've touched on it in our May and June newsletter. We've had a feature about building a sustainable garden. And then there's a link to the Nifty 50 top 50 plant native species. We also had a brochure at the Avocado Festival that featured those top 50 species, and we have some in the lobby as well.
Do we have an opportunity on the website to highlight some of these things so people can go
We
back?
do actually.
Okay, good. It's wonderful.
In
okay,
August, we're going to focus in on the value of water. So going in from information about rates, we're going to expand on what your water pays for, the components of the infrastructure, maintenance, and delivery of safe and reliable water, and have an infographic. We have planned to do a backflow device review, but wanted to add in like a little bit of a video for our team to explain, what we can do to identify if you need a backflow device. When you can take the survey to say you don't need it. We want to expand on that information because that's an area where we need a little bit of improvement. Then we're going to further push out the customer service.
I had one question about, and I guess it kind of ties back a little bit to detachment, but it's on this conservation and this topic and some of the topics we've been talking about. So there's programs through the San Diego Water Authority for like rainwater and different things like that, where ratepayers can apply for if they put gutters on their barns or their house, and as long as they've got an appropriate capture situation, I mean, whatever it's barrels or some type of whatever, that they're eligible to get funding for those kinds of things. And I know that on the website, we talk about a lot of these types of programs, but when we pivot away from the Water Authority and we go to Met Eastern, do we need to do any connect the dots on that for anyone to say, hey, if you're interested in this type of a program, you know, this is the equivalent program, or this is where you would go over here? Do we thought about any of those kinds of things?
We have been transitioning. So with our newsletter articles that are specifically about rebates and plantings, we have links that are to Met and then to San Diego County Water Authority.
Mhm.
So post attachment will just, I've been trying to focus more on Met programs right
Mhm.
now so that we don't have.
But
to
all
rely
the
on-
water authority programs are just Met programs with this.
They are.
Yeah.
Well, sure, I'm just saying that if people are thinking about doing
Yeah.
something, right?
They're all funded by that.
They take the credit, but Met's providing.
Most of
funding.
them.
That's true.
Yeah, most of them.
yes.
I thought so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, most of them are a Met program. They're a smart water program
Yeah.
that comes through
Right.
Metropolitan.
But just how that transition happened. So if somebody were thinking about putting gutters on their barn right now, and it wasn't gonna get done
Prior to
until
detachment. yeah.
December, right? What happens with that pivot for the water district if they're
So
reaching?
how do we affect the changeover for these rebate programs that says after this date, you need to contact this agency or this group
Yeah.
as opposed to the water?
It was just
Good.
kind of
I think-
something I was thinking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Okay, newsletter, any questions about newsletter content planning, comments?
Just a
think
great
that's-
job.
Yeah,
Fantastic
fantastic.
newsletters,
Really.
colors and the highlights of the bullet points and I mean, it's one of the better ones I've seen.
One of the undersung
It was.
heroes
an
here
effort.
is Amanda. Amanda did this. She did the new logo. She's upscaled the newsletter 200, 300 or 400% from what, yeah, 1,000 from what it was before. While before a lot of the content was relevant, the presentation of it impacted your ability to absorb it. And she's got that stuff nailed. So kudos to Amanda. Thank you for coming on board
Hats
and
off.
helping us.
Great. All right, moving on, item 13, public communications and related media stories.
Okay, we have a couple of stories from May about board meetings and approvals for contract changes for capacity fees. These were in your agenda packet.
Mhm.
And then for June, we have the notice of completion for Palamasa High.
Nice.
So slow news month, but
The Fallbrook Village News on Fallbrook's detachment makes it a hard act to follow.
I know. I know.
With regards to the lift station, has that been, has a bow been tied around that thing as far as done or anything? How are we gonna communicate, that when it's?
Yeah, we're
'Cause it looks
getting,
great, by the way.
yeah, we're getting there. They were actually, actually taking things away, the dewatering equipment and all that was actually going off site today. So all the pipelines are done out front, which thank goodness that seemed to take a very, very long time. There's a couple items left. We're actually testing, they've got a bypass in place right now. So we're testing that with clean water before we actually bypass some of the sewer because we're going to line a pipeline underneath the San Luis Rey River sewer pipeline. Those are kind of the big things. And then there's gonna be a startup. So we're looking at probably July, sometime in July, that project is actually gonna be complete. And last month we talked a little bit, you weren't here, but we talked a little bit about a potential event, doing an event out there, having a bow, cutting it and
I missed that.
yeah, so we're probably looking September-ish, October, something like that to do an event like that. And we'll invite ICE's office. They gave us a grant for that site and
Supervisor.
yeah, supervisors. We've been talking to some of our neighboring agencies, Oceanside's tied to us with the sewer collection. So probably Oceanside and Fallbrook and but we'll have a little event out there and
Okay.
and celebrate that. But we're getting there. It's close.
Great.
Is,
All right.
is there another event that involves a celebration of the
Yes.
of detachment?
That was the other one we talked about. And I think that one is September, late September. Did I get
Same
that?
time frame.
27th.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be invitational only,
Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
limited venue space.
Yeah, and that's going to be,
I'm real pissed.
uh, That's going to be Fallbrook and us. And really celebrating a lot of people that, obviously boards and committees and people that have been along for the ride. A lot of the community members that helped get the word out, and really supported the detachment effort, but it's going to be a little celebration, for that. So, yeah. And then we'll have another one actually, when we actually detach, with Eastern. Eastern has asked that, we talked about doing a little event. We talked about possibly doing it on site, probably one of the pump station sites once it's
Yeah.
complete. I don't know, we're gonna go out there and turn a valve or do something. Brownies.
Got it.
So we do have some events, end of the year events or late year events.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on item 13, public communications and related media stories?
Oh, we just have the website is updated with the most current information on detachment. So when visitors come to the website, they can read about the newsletter article, figure out
Oh, okay.
where exactly we are in the process. And then you have copies of the CCR report
Mhm.
there.
All right. Sorry, we were still on 12.
Well
Sorry.
done.
My bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing too, a lot of good improvement or I think a really good improvement we made on the website is, we talked at the strategic communication workshop about our emergencies when we have our shutdowns. And so for people that don't have their number updated, we've now got where the only time that red banner comes up is an emergency. So we have emergency shutdown, people's water's off. That comes up, and then really kind of processes in place to make sure that's happening all the time, whether it's a weekend or weekday night, midnight, 2 a.m., whatever it is. And then also for our planned maintenance. So if we have a planned shutdown that's going to happen 2, 3, 4, 5 days from now, that goes on the planned maintenance, which is right on our front part of our website. So trying to do a little better job on our website, communicating those activities when people's water is going to be shut off.
So, and I know we've asked in a much different ways, but have we ever done, just please remind me, did we done an article that is like super specific to get that information, but not necessarily asking for updated contact? Something that said, would the water district know how to get in touch with you if they were gonna have to turn your water off? Would you like that's something that's a call to action? I mean, have we done
Sign
anything
up
like
for this.
that?
Yeah.
Okay, we have.
Yeah.
We ran it once and then we ran out of space to continue it because we've had an important amount of items to include in our newsletter. But I was speaking with Josh today about us also including that in the invoice message. So when people see their bill amount, we're going to put it right below there.
Update your contact info. Yeah.
But again,
Right.
I guess I'm just going at it from a different angle, not update your contact
Okay.
information, but if there was a water outage, would the water district know how
How
to
to
reach you?
reach you.
Could we text you in the future? Could we, or do a reverse 911 call? Would you want, do you have an updated email address on file that we could send information about a planned outage? Not saying what we're gonna do, right? But something to ask the question to say, oh, I probably
them
need
start
to probably
thinking
go
about
do
it.
that, right? Rather than, I don't want somebody else to have my email address, right? That kind of a thing.
Yeah. Give 'em a
Anyway,
reason.
Just a different way to go about it, maybe. So,
And
okay.
text messages were the top 3 forms of communication for the survey of the Avocado Festival. That was something that people would really like to receive information versus reverse 911.
Okay. All right, great.
So just chiming in on that, Rick and I were working on getting text messages through the reverse 911. So now we'll do both phone calls and text messages.
Oh, great.
Mhm.
Well, and again, I think we can do an article on that, right?
Yeah.
With something very specific to that.
That's great. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Okay.
That'll be very direct.
When you look at
Yeah.
it from an emergency standpoint, who would not want to be
Mhm.
notified?
Right.
It's like, how do I sign up for this?
Right.
I don't
I
want.
want
anyone
to know if my
contact-
power is going to be off. I
Right.
want to know my water's
Yeah.
going to be off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because it depends on how many, bathrooms you have in your house. It's off for a while. It starts needing
Pretty
to do some
inconvenient.
planning. Okay, so we were done now with 12, and then anything else on 13? Okay, so we're done on 13. Item 14, consider addition of legislative affairs to the Communication Customer Service Committee.
Yeah, so this is something we've had some discussions with the board about. And I think we're starting the beginnings of public affairs, legislative policy. And really, we get a lot of requests, whether it's CSDA, a lot of the organizations we're involved with, CSDA, Aqua, or even just locally taking positions on various legislation that impacts us, whether it's state or federal, and felt it would be really good to have a policy, a board adopted policy to help guide staff to go, hey, I've got this request. This is in line with our policy. Yes, we're going to support this. And kind of as we were brainstorming that, thought this actually might be a great place to start those conversations. Like I said, we're kind of just now starting to piece together a draft policy, and we were hoping that this group might be interested in us running all that information through this committee and then onto the board. It obviously adds a little bit of scope to what we'd be talking about here, because I think it's really an ongoing thing that you're doing. There's times when it gets really heavy. Right now is kind of one of those times. There's a lot of legislation being pushed through, especially at the state level. But just wanted to see if you guys were open to that and kind of add that as a business item. I don't think we really have to, I don't feel like we have to change the name of the committee. It kind of falls under communications and those kind of things, but just wanted to make sure you guys were comfortable with that. And we would probably in the next few months really start funneling some of that information and getting your take on our policies and positions as we
Well, the name of the committee is pretty long already, so I think. But thoughts?
Communications is the first word of our committee, and legislative, I think, is an important part of communicating with our rate payers. And so let's start and see how it works out. If it becomes too burdensome, or we don't have enough expertise, we can deal with it when it comes up. But I think it's a great way to at least begin this process, so staff is not wandering in the dark.
Our past experience in that area has basically been pretty much ad hoc, occasionally things will be brought to the board, other things get delegated to the general manager to deal with. And I definitely agree with Jake that I think we're reaching a stage where we need a little more formal structure in how we take positions on a legislative basis.
The organizations we work with, the CSDA and Aqua particularly, they've got legislative advocacy going on there, but that doesn't get down to the grassroots unless we plant it. And it gets planted by communication through the staff to the board. Wouldn't hurt at all to have some of the things that are coming up before the legislature, have this committee become aware of that, start to get an idea of how often that happens. The board has so much to focus on. I know that they can't constantly be focused on bills. Give you an example. I was the president of the California Association of Community Managers back in the day, and that organization, had 3,000 managers statewide that were involved, and we finally decided, and this was in the 90s, that we were going to have a legislative presence. Before you know it, we engaged just on a part-time basis, a lobbyist up there to start referring the bills down through that were affecting community associations, homeowners associations, CIDs, stock cooperatives, all of it. The average between then and now, number of bills that went into the legislature hopper every February was about 30 to 40 that would have changed the civil code and created every kind of nightmare imaginable for the association management industry. We got very, very active. We ended up going, I was up there. I attended committee hearings on a regular basis while I was chair, and And then our lobbyist was, there are all ways to represent it. What happens in our state legislature is a bill gets submitted. I won't even get into a subject matter, but a bill gets submitted that would affect the water industry, the water sewage. Goes into a committee. Committee holds hearings. During the hearings, it changes entirely. Whatever the bill was going in the hopper, which you can, get all the bills submitted at one time and review them and okay, this does this, this does. But that isn't what comes out. What comes out is some, bastardization of the original bill, and sometimes the results are just heinous. I think that's what happened to the legislation that followed our detachment vote when the city tried to stop us by submitting a bill that would stop any agency in the entire state from ever detaching without a countywide vote. It got passed. It's a disaster, frankly, and it's going to be on the books now, for as long as forever, probably. But that's just one example. So yes, it is a fertile field to plow. We are not going to become experts, but common sense dictates that if we have an opportunity to take a look at the legislation that's being submitted every year,
And voice an opinion.
kind of review it, get some recommendations coming through the trade organizations, and then encourage the board to become more involved at the grassroots level where it's appropriate. I think that would be a good function for this committee.
All right. Well, so I would agree that that's a lift that we could attempt and see how we can help the board out and the ratepayers in that. Do we need to have a motion or a vote on this or no? Okay, so you got our feedback?
Got it.
Item 15, list of suggested agenda items for the next meeting. Well, anything that we had moved.
You asked for a review of our contact info process.
Okay,
That was discussed earlier.
We'll do another crop swap update too.
Yep.
Keep you updated on that.
super. So as far as well, you had pointed to some board packet information, but is there anything that we'd want to loop back to that might help James out with regards to some of our analysis?
Our ratepayer profiles.
Yeah.
Yeah, in addition to the other stuff that we talked about.
I think we already have it. It would just be kind of
It's
regurgitated.
part of
Yeah.
the program.
So
that,
be
coming.
very easy to put it on the next agenda.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, and those
I think that was
when
the
we do,
strategic communication plan that you're working on.
Mhm.
For the record.
yeah, and did that get the summaries of all of that? Is that available?
We're still working on
Yeah.
creating a written document. So I think 2 months ago, we did kind of an update summary presentation to the committee, but we're still working on a written summary.
Okay,
document.
is that presentation something that we could share?
Yes,
Okay,
the presentation that was done here in the committee.
okay. So let's get that over to you because it's not gonna have all the context that if you would have been in the meeting, but it might generate questions that you have.
Yeah, it has a lot, and I've got some graphs on, the percentage of 66% are single family residential and 24% are some kind of ag with residential or not with residential, and then there's everybody else.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the whole process with regards to the strategic communication planning, that was something that didn't exist before, and a lot of work has gone into that, and it's in its process going forward. And there's just been a lot of great effort and contributions on that. And then these events that if we on item 11, that's some of that stuff that you were talking about. We'll get some visibility to that on the calendar as far as some of these bigger ribbon cutting or what have you. Anything else that we should add?
Very productive meeting.
Okay. All right. Well, then we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Question. Because